Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Nottingham. It is UKU Nationals EUCR West, and we have the mixed final coming up for you now. It is Reading against Smog. Those of you may have seen that we've had a bit of a change to the schedule. Originally, this game was scheduled to be a little bit later, but there's lightning forecast later in the day, so there's had to move some things around, and the upshot is that we've got the mixed final now. The women's final will follow this game. That is a 3 o'clock local time start. But in the meantime, back to the matter at hand. Reading versus Smog in the mixed final here. Both sides undefeated on the weekend, and generally haven't even necessarily been pushed that far. Smog's toughest game came in an intra-club affair, playing against Smog Rising, but they came out 14-10 winners, whereas for Reading, it was their semi-final triumph that we streamed earlier this morning up against Deep Space. It was a 14-9 final score. Both sides met way back at the start of the season, back in August. Haven't seen each other since then. Had slightly different seasons, it has to be said. Reading, of course, sending a squad to multiple World Championships this summer, with World Masters Ultimate Club Championships taking place in Limerick, down in the southwest of Ireland, before the World Ultimate Club Championships out in Ohio a couple of weeks later. For Smog, just the Cincinnati campaign for them. But certainly, both sides trying to manage that trickiest of scenarios, getting multiple peaks in the same season. It's Benji Rees here with you in the commentary booth, delighted to be joined by the unmistakable sound of Lorcan Murray.
We're back in the booth and back in action for our second final of the day. I've been blessed to get to call both of them and watch them up here from this lovely vantage point. This time it's the mixed division and two teams that are well acquainted with each other and are well acquainted with championship level ultimate. And that is Reading, representing Reading of course, and Smog representing the North. When I was over in America, they needed a city for each club, so they went with Durham. But you know, there's a couple of different cities around there that they can be attributed to. Both teams with a lot of depth, a lot of ability to play through different ranges of players, especially something Smog have been focusing a lot this season has been evening things out, because in the past Reading have done a great job of clamping down on some of their bigger names and trying to like put the pressure there. So Smog, to counteract that, spent the rest of the season evening out. And the Reading here, of course, coming off the back of a quarter-final berth at the Worlds. And let's be honest, a couple of centimetres away from making it to the semi-finals in the All-European quarter-final that they had against the Finns. But right now it's all about what they can do against Smog here in Nottingham.
So Smog starting on offence, wearing the white. Bennett putting it deep, and it is bang on the money. Tom Bennett to Tessa Hunt has worked so many times in the past, and it comes good once again as Smog take an early 1-0 lead.
To be expected. If there's something you associate with Smog offense, it's that isolation downfield traditionally. Yep, Tessa Hunt's going to be one of their major threats that they're going to be pushing all the time. They love doing it. If they can just get you into a one-on-one battle, they're going to back their receivers every single time. It'll be interesting to see how Reading can respond. As you see, once there, just loads up to Tom Bennett, no hesitation. Womano, Womano, and Emma Klima is nobody to be overlooked, but at that time, just the shot was too perfect, the cut was too well timed.
I think both sides are quite aware of how their opponents like to play. They do like to, uncork those long bombs. They'll hook to both genders, it doesn't matter. They just set up those isolations so early and make sure you can get those one-on-one matchups. The question is, it's one thing to know that it's coming, it's another thing to actually set about stopping it.
It's a difficult challenge. I mean, you can go through all the tactics you want in your mind, you can prepare on paper all week long coming for what you'd have to expect. Both these teams, when they look across the field, they're saying these are what we're going up against, but it's not until you're out there on the grass that it really gets tested.
So Reading looking to score, maybe not quite as easily as their opponents did, but maybe they will, as Lewis looks deep. Roberts is in the end zone and reels it in. Both sides going big early, and it's Lewis to Roberts to tie us up at ones.
Anything you can do, I suppose we can do just as well. Beautiful isolation setup. We were lucky enough to be talking to Andrew Lewis before the game. He gave us a little breakdown of Reading's mentality heading into this matchup. Obviously a huge confidence boost after their great performance at Worlds, but still a team that is always working together as a unit and drawing from all elements of their sizable club. Almost the exact same setup, you know, you just scoot it along, you get it in the right position, there's isolation downfield, and you got to hit it. Two beautiful flick hooks.
I mean, both of these sides have big throwers aplenty. So if you're someone who, maybe prefers that small ball style offense, these are two teams who would beg to differ.
Something that we've seen well established for them. I mean, Andy Lewis himself, who had 37 contributions, 29 assists over in Cincinnati, and just continuing that legacy here in Nottingham. So, early enough, it's what, 5-pass offense, both teams, both ways?
Pretty much. It was so slick and smooth. Certainly, I think both sides will be looking to ratchet up a bit more defensive pressure than we managed in those first 2 points. Using gender ratio rule A here, aka the ABBA rule, the 4-3 ratio switching every couple of points, and the dominant on-pitch gender numerically pulling. So that's the male matching players here. On this point, as Tidswell catches the disc on this near side, resets to Helen Thompson in the backfield. Thompson swings to Tom Lees, aka Yellow. The lefty finds Tidswell slashing towards that far sideline. Tidswell appears to be wearing a slightly older version of the Smog jersey. Here's Yellow looking deep. This time Bennett, rather than being the distributor, is the target. But again, Smog getting that deep game working early.
And such a testament to Bennett's ability on both ends of the pitch, because Reading spent a lot of that point shading deep, so trying to push the Smog receivers under in towards the handler space and crowd that space. With Bennett, he makes the fake into that space aggressively. Naturally, if you're covering him, you're thinking, well, I don't want him to get it under with enough time to turn and fire another shot to the end zone. I've got to commit. As soon as the body weight of the defender turns to commit, he's gone. You see just off screen right now is him roasting his defender, and then plenty of time to just chase it down comfortably for the score. So really versatility, the name of the game for Bennett.
Yeah, both of these sides bringing pretty much the intact rosters from the World Championships. A couple of changes from either side, but mostly we're seeing the same faces out there, so they're certainly more than familiar. You expect the chemistry to be nailed on by this point.
You said yourself, chemistry absolutely has got to be locked in, but doing that double peak is so incredibly difficult, perhaps even a bit of a triple peak with, like, we've got in and around a month from now until the European Championships.
And some of these players have played at World Games as well, so the quadruple peak.
I mean, at a certain point, it's a mountain range, and that's no easy feat.
Here's a nice little scuba over the top there from Hogan. Lewis plays a short 1-2 with Roberts. Those two combined for Reading's first score. Hogan, I think, wants a bit better spacing. And Sam Wilson, brother of Ben, who's also on this Reading roster. This one through. I think originally Wilson might have been the target, but Hogan is there for backup. Things looking quite calm. Doesn't appear that Reading are too flustered by the defensive look here from the Northerners. Caudron thinks about the short option and goes back to Hogan instead.
Trying to put a bit of pressure on with the zone. Reading doing a good job of not getting suckered into playing in cramped spaces. Pulling apart the jaws of that zone and then diving down its throat.
Yeah, they really are spacing out, giving everyone their own little room to work with. We've got Caudron really poached on this near side. Go back to Lewis in the backfield. Transitions come, so we're into one-on-one defense now. Roberts on the sideline. Coward clears out. Going to look this reset. Nice inside throw goes early. And continuation around to Lewis. Thinks about going to the end zone. Not quite on this occasion. Makes Hoagie get a little bit of a shift on, but Hogan makes the catch. Now looking towards the end zone. Wants the give go with the backhand, but I think there's a pick that might call this one back. Lewis up against Williams, which is a nice matchup in the sense that they're both just really friendly people. It's, it's like sometimes you think about, those really defensive intensity, and, they can do it, but obviously it's just like, well, friendly chaps. Here's Caudron swinging around and finds a way to work that around the mark of Martin into the end zone, punching it in for the score to Caudron.
So close to the outstretched fingers of Martin, almost getting the block, but really well measured and shot into the end zone. Smoothly done. Took a lot of work, but they didn't succumb to the pressure that Smog were trying to put on. Obviously, they're thinking, all right, well, we don't want to let them get away with another deep shot. Let's make them throw 100 passes. And Reading said, all right, fine, let's throw 100 passes.
They didn't ever really look hugely flustered with it.
I think there was a moment or two when they had a chance as the cup was operating. Hoagie did a good job of coming from a far sideline into the middle, and then whoever was out there marking on that side of the front of the zone couldn't quite follow him in without giving up the whole wing, so they kind of stick them in a really tough decision. Is it, are you going to take the middle option, or are you going to open up an entire wing of the pitch? They seem pretty dedicated to holding off the wing, and both times Reading were able to release the pressure by just hitting a nice one through the middle of the zone. So really great experience and patience against that, and just showing how well versed this Reading side is.
So 2 apiece here early on in this game.
Also worth noting, no turnovers so far.
Nope, very clean. And that ball lands perfectly underneath that chair on the sideline. It's going to result in well, I imagine will be a bricked ball here. It does look like that yellow is going to bring it into the brick mark here.
I'm starting to think, and this is something from Nugan, watching him do the flick pulls, but also a few other teams have mentioned it to me. It's almost worth, with a pull, just aiming so it's going to roll out the sideline. If you can pin them there, it can be a huge advantage, even if it doesn't go quite as far down the pitch.
Especially if the wind picks up a little bit, those sideline traps can be incredibly effective. Collier again looking for the deep ball. Bennett is once more the target. He tries to hop that in, but I think he's just landed on the end zone line. Bennett goes back to Turton. Lefty, then righty. Wants to activate Lees as the reset. Stall count rising. Cardwell did a good job there, but just about gets it off to Lees. He wants to float this towards the far side. I don't know if Hunt's in bounds. I didn't get a good enough look at it, and I think they're going to call it out.
If I was speculative, I would agree with them. Yep, absolutely going to have to be called out as Bignell picks it up and immediately sends it into Hutchison.
Putting this one out into space. Palmer rips it down. Palmer, one of those players who represented Great Britain at the World Games out in Birmingham, Alabama. That one low, bounces off Klima's hands.
So unfortunate error as Reading got their first D-line look at a score.
Lees begins by swinging to Thompson. She gives it back.
So hard to contain.
Nice little leading pass there, trying to get Thompson in power position. Resetting back to Lees instead. Moving Hutchison on the mark to find Bennett. Bennett with a lovely inside. Hits Collier in space. Watts on the mark, and Collier threads that through to Thompson in the end zone. Smog back on top, 3-2.
Thompson gets to the dump half and then just doesn't stop moving. Tireless work from one of, I believe, the captains of Smog. Certainly was the captain of their Worlds campaign. Really, really impressive stuff. Just the give and then to take off. First of all, gets the disc moving, gets up the line, gets it again, pops it, makes the same move, doesn't receive the disc, continues with the clearing, something I think we could have seen a little bit more of in the previous game, carries it all the way around, turns it into a breakside shot. As we have another look at, I mean, incredibly impressive attempt by Tessa, but you can see that back leg had lifted up.
Yeah, it was close, but no cigar on this occasion. And you see, getting a lot of love with the inside looks here. Smog forces a little bit off, and you can see that I think it's trying to stop that inside, but it's a good wide pivot out, and that creates the angle for that throw.
Well set up Cup, well executed throw, and Smog hold on to possession despite the turnover.
Yeah, first turnovers of the game we've seen.
3-2 to the Northerners.
Yeah, all on serve so far in this game. Caudron catching the ball here for Reading, looking to even things up once more, giving Lewis space in the centre. Shooting towards the sideline where he finds Roberts. Roberts to Sam Wilson. Again, Reading O-line has been flawless so far this game. Looking to preserve that here. Roberts to Caudron on the far side. Again, keeping things moving nicely, not getting trapped in too high stall counts. Here's Hill, the Sussex grad, downfield. Got to get the obligatory mention in.
You got to represent your people.
100%. Roberts, not far outside the end zone here. I think does look a bit cluttered and congested there in the middle.
Just jump in. That backhand break by Hill was so fantastic. Moves them to the break sideline, and then Reading do a fantastic job of setting their structure and making sure that after pulling off such a difficult throw, they create the space. Can they execute in it?
Roberts leading pass to Hogan. Think about him more as a handler, but if you take your eyes off him, he's more than happy taking that space in the end zone. 3 apiece.
An incredibly crafty player, Conor Hogan, a long-standing veteran of the game, was a titan of the sport in Irish Ultimate when I first started playing, captain of the very first ever Irish Under-20 squad. I believe that was the 2008-2009 squad, coming out of the Dublin Youth Ultimate scene. So I think one of the first schools programs I ever started, Marco Early started a schools program in Gonzaga. I think that's where Conor Hogan came from. He definitely came from the school system there. And like you say, traditionally thought of more as a handler. A lot of experience playing across the mixed division here in the UK, as well as playing for Clapham a few years ago. But look, he's just crafty.
He's a bit of a... It feels harsh to call him a mercenary or a veteran or a journeyman, but he's played for a few clubs over the years. He's
made his way around. You know, once he moved to London, he kind of obviously, and I think this is true across the UK and Ireland. You look to the thought of, like, a lot of people get drawn career-wise to London. A lot of people get drawn ambition-wise to Clapham. And you think, oh, if I ever find myself there, I'm definitely going to at least go for it. And it's understandable a lot of people play there, and they've kind of worked their way into where they find more comfortable. Or it's a tough thing to keep up for a lot of seasons in a row.
Yeah, and it feels like enjoys playing in the mixed division.
I attribute that probably to the 2016 run with the Irish national team as well, where they wound up making it to the final and losing to Redacted.
When you say Redacted,
I mean, it's illegal to talk about it, and we could get in trouble. So let's move right along to see how Smog, they've turned once. Can they hold on to it at 3-3 as they look to work it down the pitch?
Just to confirm, that was EUC 2015 out in Copenhagen, where Great Britain beat Ireland in the final, yeah?
Sorry, that seems to be technical difficulties we're having there.
1-0. Here's Lees bringing it in from the brick mark. You can see him really pump that flick. Harkin. Oh, Grossman drops. Again, another opportunity for Reading to break.
Much shorter field there within the Smog half. His D-line's less experienced. Who are they going to turn to in these crucial moments?
Scott. So he's just trying to direct some traffic downfield, going towards the sideline for Coons in those fluorescent tights. Knight swirling around. There is a pick downfield.
So the Smog O-line doing a good job of clamping down. I mean, I think a lot of that happens with D-lines. You can really put a lot of pressure on them by just trying to suffocate their handlers and wait until they go for some kind of a speculative deep look.
Yeah, I think generally you do tend to give those D-lines more license to be expansive, trusting them to get it back after the turn. And as well, you know, because there's kind of less pressure on your D-lines to score, whereas your O-line, it's your job. D-line, if you get a break, it's, you know, it's a big win. So maybe you do give them a bit more license. Here's Ben Wilson on the far sideline. Trying to isolate Palmer, going towards the side of the end zone, just shot through. Grossman lays out through the back, but I think the disc had gone anyway.
That was a special cut by Palmer. Just the attack, the front cone, plant and turn, and the defender was left in the dust. But the throw was a tight angle, couldn't quite complete, but I absolutely adore that end zone cut.
Could maybe have just got a bit more edge on it, perhaps?
Ifs and buts.
It's a lot easier to say up here than it is to do down there on the field, especially when you've got Smog playing defense.
So Smog once again get away with one.
And Yellow again opens up the arm. Hunt is his favourite target downfield, but Palmer wins this matchup.
Brilliant commitment by Palmer. You see, she's a leader in every aspect of the sport for this Reading side.
Yeah, wealth of international experience. Came through the GB youth ranks, played mixed under 23s back in 2015. Played mixed out in Dure, taking home a gold medal. And this time, the deep look for Knight doesn't connect with Wilson. Getting, for the first time, a little bit scrappy.
I was surprised that shot, it was always coming short and the opportunity was still there for Knight to pull it down, but not quite ready.
Lees to Collier. Collier inside to Grossman, has that free swing to Bennett, wisely takes it. Bennett with the lefty offhand there, finds Lees, back to Bennett. Collier is so poached on that far side, eventually Bennett steps forward on the mark to access that angle and then just pinging it into the end zone to a rising star for Smog, Yasmin Gill for the score.
Yasmin Gill has been very impressive this season, stepping up and following kind of that Tessa Hunt mold of just being a super reliable offensive player. Quick shout out to Tessa Hunt, whose cut to the end zone is what drew a poach and ultimately left Collier so free for the break throw across. And it just shows when you've got those kind of threats, you have to react to them, and Smog are developing more and more of them.
Right, and this is the thing as well. Such is the threat and the speed that Hunt possesses. You know, it's drawing the poaches even across the gender divide, because they know what a threat it is. But yeah, Gill is someone I think that Gill I think is someone that Smog have potentially earmarked to step up into that deep engine role that Tessa Hunt provides, with Tessa Hunt next week going, her and Nick Williams are going travelling for a long old time, so not going to be around at Euros, and already trying to kind of mould Yasmin Gill into that role.
You always want to be building upon the successes you have. I mean, it's one thing to find that kind of generational talent, but it's the next step of being a truly elite club is about how you can use it to mould your next generation and raise up players. How can you be the tide that lifts all boats?
Here's Sam Wilson for Reading again. Reading's O-line has not turned the disc over yet. Rosie Coward on this near side. Roberts is a reset if that's where she wants to go. Stall count rising. Coward squeezes it down the sideline to Lewis. He was thinking about the big shot, but goes small instead. Hogan, that red headband, finds Lewis again. Brilliant cut from Caudron, creating acres of separation. Roberts, patient this from Reading, just past the outstretched arm of Williams. Wilson makes the catch, gets it off quickly to Hogan, trying to get moving before Williams can get back into position. Roberts underneath, fakes the backhand to Caudron. Maybe thought that could have gone. Roberts thought better of it. This one was going to lead Leicester into space. Did she keep it up?
I feel like she did. I mean, it was an incredibly close one and a classic, almost falling. She's given it up though, very fair, understandable. The turnover hand signal, we're going to have another look here. Oh, that's down. Yeah, okay, that's down.
It does. I wasn't sure at first, from the replay, you can see just the Eds taking it away from her, and it does look down.
I guess it's just I'm a sucker for hype. And those kind of plays where you just seem to scrape it off at the last second.
It looks cool and it stands, that sort of thing. But
exactly.
With the benefit of slow motion replay, it looks down to us. Obviously, the important thing is that the players on the field come to a resolution that they're happy with. Cardwell's come on, by the way, as an injury replacement for Leicester. I think maybe just shook herself up along that landing a little bit.
Understandable. Got to leave it all out there. Got to go for it. So this is going to be most likely Reading's first turn. Yep.
Assuming that the turnover does stand, it would be the first turnover for Reading's O-line.
I think Hyde's just going to tap that one in. Or stand over it while it gets tapped in even.
Yeah, actually this might end up being the opposite of the Reading semi-final, where their O-line looked really shaky early, but Deep Space couldn't get the breaks in, and the first time Reading turned the disc defensively, they put it in. Now Smog are looking to try and do the same, their first D-line possession. Here's Williams. Martin was roaming deep, not looked at on this occasion. Williams with a rising stall goes offhand and fluttered and bobbled out of the grasp of Oliver Gray.
Fantastic downfield defense by Helen Roberts as well.
So Reading, having turned it over, get it back in short order. Hogan zinging this down the sideline to Roberts, not quite in. Hell of a throw regardless. Aggressive option taken there by Hoagie. And I think that looks like a pick to me. Indeed it is.
Brilliant work on the force as well by Kelly Martin, getting those hands up. Very briefly that hammer to Lewis was on, and Martin recognised, stopped the throw, and just kind of had Roberts have to scratch her head and rethink her options.
I mean, it's always on if you throw it hard enough, right? Here's the reset instead to Sam Wilson. Still rising. Hogan tries to weasel his way free, but it's Cardwell who came on that injury stoppage instead. Trying to isolate Roberts at the front of the end zone. Roberts comes out, and players have stopped because there's a call somewhere.
Seems like might be a little bit of picks going on in the middle of the stack. I like those drop flip breaks, though. Both teams using the inside break to great effect so far in this game. Both teams now have turned over, but their offense is getting it back for them. It's remaining a tight affair.
Yeah, and I think they're going to keep the disc with Roberts here. Everyone just making sure they're in possessions, getting the stall count accurate. Checked it by Martin on the mark. Wilson comes free at that front option. Lewis, that throw pops up over the head of Lewis, and Spears snatches it away. It was a good opportunity. The window was there, just didn't execute on it. Smog now with another opportunity for the game's first break. Lucy Hyde back into the backfield for Spears. Looking a little bit unruly, that hair. Expert high snag there from Williams, saying no, flat no to the conservation of greatness, as bangs it deep for Naden, who boxes out and now goes to the end zone. Smog draw first blood with the break.
Brilliant work by Naden, or I'm correct, by Rachel Naden on two of those grabs. The first one using brilliant body position. There was pressure, it was a flow. I mean, we were all kind of thinking it. I think the people at home would have to admit as well. Nick Williams puts that one up and you're like, that's... Probably shouldn't have done that, Nick.
He does airmail it slightly.
But Naden's there, uses the body, gets up, takes it at the highest point, and then just the pop and go again. Beautiful move. Center it ever so slightly, fake one way, plant and turn. You're going to find yourself a couple of meters of space. There's a break. Great grab. Williams gets up big and then responds by throwing it up big as well. A couple of people coming in together, but that's just top quality ultimate.
Yeah, good box, and then having sealed out Roberts, gets the disc off quickly, heads to the end zone, and when you've got that one-on-one there, it's so tough to stop, especially a player of Naden's quality.
I think that kind of 7 cut as well, where you make it look like you're going for an up the line, and then you just plant, go the opposite way, because when you're dealing in such close quarters, the slightest misstep and you're going to find yourself a meter of space.
Especially that the wind has subsided slightly.
I suppose we should point that out. When we were down there earlier kind of testing the wind, it was coming from the left-hand side to the right-hand side blowing down. So it would explain why you've kind of seen those hucks be a lot more smooth, and then the other direction, the D-lines that were putting them up, they weren't hanging nearly as much, they weren't going quite as far. So that has seemed to calm down. Smog starting on offense, so that first break gives them a 2-point cushion, 5-3.
Lynn comes on and is going to pull, so we've got 4 female, 3 male matching players at this point.
It'll be interesting to see how Reading respond. They have been down several times throughout this season. They generally come back quite ferociously, but they haven't really been down so far this tournament. And that's kind of the crucial difference. They've somewhat cruised to get here.
Yeah, had an easy ride in the group stage, and then weren't particularly troubled in the brackets either. Deep space game looked like it might be tight, but Reading in the end just blew them away in the first half.
Deep space made a bigger comeback in the second half to give them credit where it's due, but like you say, at that point Reading were just cruising their way into the final.
Leicester back on the field, catching underneath, now Roberts. Klima planting going, and Roberts saw it, but a bit of contact on the release.
So they're going to call for that one back. And you got to imagine there's a lot of pride at stake here. Smog not too happy with where they would have finished at Worlds. I mean, both Smog and Reading were in with a good chance of making it to the quarterfinals. Reading fulfilled that particular ambitious, by their own admission, somewhat even overachieving. Smog feeling to fall as far as they did, in a large way because of their pre-quarter slip-up.
But for Smog, on home soil, this is their battleground. National champions multiple years in a row now. It's
a lot to fight for. I mean, the reputation, the glory, plenty to prove. So you can expect them to just keep pushing and not take anything for granted, as that one's going to go back to Roberts.
Yeah, so feeling there's contact there with Emily McCabe's left hand. I must admit, from that angle, couldn't really see anything because McCabe is there. So this stays with Roberts, choosing the reset instead. Wilson, with the stall count rising, just going back to Bignall here. He's come over to play some offense. Sits that one out there for Leicester. Bignall tries to unleash at the front of the stack. Plants once, twice, then gets free in the backfield. Feel like they're baiting that raking inside shot all the way across, taking the shorter one instead to Klima. Front and centre of the end zone. Can she break around? She can, to Wilson for the score.
Klima, a real force offensively. Not really going to rush anything, not going to take too many risky shots, but those fakes, so deadly. They're going to move about the force. So Smog, happy to get the break, happy to push themselves out into a bit of a lead. That makes it 5-4, gives them a bit of breathing room against this Reading side. But up until that point, it did kind of look to me that Reading had something of an advantage so far in this matchup, and they respond quite effectively.
Yeah, that's that inside from Bignall that opened the thing up, and then I think here Neve maybe just gets a little greedy on the mark, comes slightly too flat, and
dragged across.
Yeah, but that's the cuts going on the field. It'll be the help from the sideline, the way the Klima's got the disposition, threatening that inside flick that draws her over to allow the backhand space.
I think they know that Reading want to kind of isolate the front of stack and try and hit them in that break side position. I mean, she'd literally just seen Klima do it as a cut from the cutting position. So she's thinking, okay, if I can just edge it ever so slightly, because you get that flick off quicker, I'll be able to step around and kick up, hopefully stop the backhand break. The foot was close, but not close enough, and in the end, suckered in and paid the price for it. 5-4. Reading needs a break to get back into this.
Hutchison with those big lefty backhands of this will pull here. A little bit of outside in shape will take it towards that far sideline. Collier fields low to the ground, but entirely unflustered in doing so. First pass goes to Thompson. They're trying to isolate Turton and Tidswell over towards the far side. Tidswell gets the under, fakes the backhand to Turton, but just going to play it in the backfield again. Reading mentioned that they might sag into those handler spaces to try and prevent those isolations, any of those schemed up pull plays. They want to take away those first looks.
It seems like that's Watt's responsibility right now, so Collier's pulling him out of the handler space. That's a smart move.
And Hunt looking downfield for Turton, but just needed a bit more air under that one.
Tough as well. I mean, it shows you the conditions really have calmed down. I mean, earlier in this game, you would have put it up there. That would have naturally hung a little bit longer, so I think not quite ready for it to go down that far. So Reading with another chance to get a break. They've had a few in this game.
They have indeed. The D-line's turned over Smog 3 now 4 times as Palmer reaches out to make that catch. Fakes the first look, and what? Oh, just looked downfield, but the disc wasn't there with him.
Unfortunately, maybe getting a bit ahead of himself, and the disc gets left behind as Smog get away with one. And Thompson's going to take her time walking to that, let her team set up with a bit of structure. It'll be interesting to see if Reading continue to poach into the open channels.
It looks like they're going to try and run a bit of handler dominator here. And Joe Brown up against Tom Bennett. Going to be an accepted foul call. Checked back in. Bennett has the disc, looking for that low release around, and Turton toes the sideline to make it 6-4 to Smog.
Bennett makes that look so easy. It just comes so gracefully out of his hands as he steps across. There might be a little conversation about picks or positioning, so we might have to go back. Just going to let them talk it out. Nope, they're still going to call it as a score, just a bit of discussion so they understand moving forward. I like that as a call.
Yeah, I mean, I always think, you know, you can have the discussions in between points. You can say, okay, this didn't affect, but actually in future it might do. Let's keep those channels of communication open.
Well, that's one of the highest things for Spirit. We're just going to have another quick look at Bennett's break here. Just watch. Again, they're trying to stop that inside break. But to be able to extend that far away from your point of like stability.
He's got a long wingspan and he used it well.
But just like what we were saying about Spirit, like it can evolve over the course of a game, and you can just talk to each other on the sideline a lot. Like that's one of the great aspects of having Spirit captains. You can just say, look, mention something to your Spirit captain, ask them to go and mention it to theirs.
You get designated communicator to lead discussion, so if anyone has something they want to bring up, they know who to turn to.
And then that allows for the game to grow, because something that you see a lot at like these really high intensity parts is like calls start to be picked up as the game is close towards the end, and it starts to really drag out. Like we're not watching basketball here, we don't want to stop every 30 seconds. So if you can create that dialogue early in the game, and have it established throughout the rest. Then you can really tell if people are actually being unfair towards the end of the game or if they're just starting to feel the heat a bit more.
So Hill's first pass goes to Hogan. Then Lewis dumps off to Caudron. On the far sideline now is Sam Wilson.
It's a bit of risky business there, Benji.
It seems, I mean, it works just about, so Reading won't mind. Lewis is wide open deep, but Hill fancies the under instead. Hogan catches, now wants it off quickly from Wilson. Hill might be the option instead. No, Reading just choosing to act with caution here.
Calder's been fantastic in that linchpin roll, just there for the quick dump backwards and then immediately keeping the disc. Doesn't want to hold it for longer than a half second, it seems.
Lewis to Hill. I think he's thinking about the deep look there. Instead, really fires that for Caudron on the far side. Picks up quickly to Lewis.
Great help defense by Smog.
Smog's really slowing things down there, but Williams was poaching and snaffled that one away. And Williams looking big for Spears, who goes coast to coast for another Smog break, 7-4.
That was incredible. That was incredible by Smog. If you want to talk about team defense, I think it might have been Rachel Naden who just peeled off from the back of the stack. It was definitely Sam Wilson tearing deep. He had his man beaten, and you're thinking that's an up the line leading pass, score for Reading. It's going to be staying nice and tight. Fantastic recognition in the backfield by Rachel Naden, or I suppose the downfield by Rachel Naden, to pull out across, shut down that option as they turn to reset and they try to balance where is this going to be coming from. They leave a little bit too much hang, allowing Williams to steal through and just take that one away from the intended receiver, Rosie Coward. No hesitation by Williams. He sees Spears down the pitch and just unleashes him. One shot, one knockout blow potentially. There's definitely a timeout. I thought I saw Helen Thompson call it, which would be an interesting, the classic, we've got a timeout, we might as well use it. The next point could see us into the half, but a commanding 7-4 lead right now, Benji.
It's a very good position for Smog to be in at the moment. Certainly, I think at the moment you'd probably much rather be in their position. I don't necessarily think that's a surprise, but on the previous turnover there, they had Hogan poached, and I think they saw, actually we can try and be a bit more aggressive, and they tried to lead him into space, but in doing so, fell right into the jaws, into the trap that Williams had set.
That's the nature with team defense, when you can really start to peel off and take a couple of liberties. The chaos it can generate through other teams trying to be opportunistic is amazing. It does take a lot of talent and sometimes some individual brilliance, because it's a gamble at all times, really. That time, the individual brilliance of Nick Williams is able to see him steal through and take that disc away, and just immediately, I mean, he basically gets to step in as if he's taking a pull. And under that kind of pressure, it's not easy to put one up. It was a beautiful floating pass that Spears just had to jog down and collect. So 7-4, big lead. Reading still searching for their first break. They're getting plenty of turns, but they're struggling on the offensive side once they get the disc. Would it be worth maybe bringing a few people over? We'll wait to see after this O-line point.
Yeah, potentially, but as you mentioned, before you can get those breaks, you've got to start putting in your offense.
So it's not necessarily been a series of runs. And
just a point here or there.
Yep, it's 2 breaks so far that they've gotten to push it out to 7-4. I don't think we've seen Reading play quite confidently. Would you like to see maybe open it up a bit more, go for some big shots, kind of get that jolt of energy back into the team?
We saw them at the start of the game really try and hit those big options, and then I wonder if potentially they're feeling the pressure a little bit and that's why they've tightened up. But certainly they've got the throwers and they've got the receivers as well, so it wouldn't surprise me if they do go back to that. I think you've got to credit Smog's defense as well for trying to stop those options and shutting them down well. Here is the aforementioned deep shot, Roberts. Oh, Wilson fumbles, but catches for the sloppy seconds, and 7-5.
I mean, making allowances for the catch in the end, that's the exact response you want. Just fluid, almost looked like a set play. The way they just worked it. Roberts finds herself in a power position, loads it up. Plenty of room for Sam Wilson. I mean, it was closed towards the end, put the pressure on, but he managed to hold his nerve and bring it in. So, great stuff by Reading. Now we need to start to talk about the defense. Oh, and we can see Bignell is going to be out there along with, it looks like, Lewis, although he might just be talking to the line.
Yeah, so
yeah,
you can see they've got Hutchison out there. Bignall, Joe Brown. It looks like Palmer to pull. Holly Cardwell. And then
Wong.
Yeah, and trying to see who is...
Just behind Imogen?
Yeah, who's lurking behind them. It looks like Klima.
Klima, yeah.
So, again, it looks like a strong line, but I think every line these sides put out looks strong to me. So
it's like, that's an athletic line. Yeah, you can see what they're going for. So, I mean, who on this team isn't an athlete? This is the UK National Finals. Also EUCR West. Yeah. Traditionally where some of the best challengers to Ruth's dominance come from.
Yeah, Reading are former European mixed champions, and they'll be looking to get back there again this year. Both of these sides have already qualified. For Euros, it's just about the national title on the line now, and of course seeding going into the championships in Cole in 3 weeks' time. 3 weeks' time. By the way, you can watch all of that for free on ULTI.TV's YouTube channel. Aren't we good to you? This one may be a little bit of an overthrow. Oh, Jesus.
That's what we would traditionally call a bit of a perpendicular, dangerous play. You come in at a right angle, attacking this spot. I mean, if you got a bid to catch up with somebody who's sprinting ahead of you, you should probably just let him get the disc. Yeah,
we're going to see it here. The throw from Gill, it goes over Bennett's head. Brown lays out, and then as he comes through, I think Bennett just gets a loss of contact with him.
At the same time, that's so tough, because once a disc goes over someone's head and they have to turn around, like if you have to turn around to react to where a disc has gone, I feel like you've given up your right of way.
Like, I don't feel like that bid can never be made. I just feel like in that scenario, Bennett was there first, and Brown has kind of come across.
Yeah. I understand. The dangerous play can be such a subjective application as well. It can be really difficult to tell sometimes.
After what could have been a potentially nasty head injury, Brown goes up off the field on his own, under his own power, which is good to see. I think they've put Ben Wilson on as a replacement. Keep an eye on Joe Brown, see if he's able to get back on the field. Here's Turton for Smog, going to Helen Thompson. Thompson short to Lees. Wow, an outstretched arm just beyond the paw of Hutchison. Thompson looking for that inside channel. Plows it well. Turton back to Bennett. Bennett zips that one in there to Smog, and that is an 8-5 half-time lead. Tidswell with the score.
With synonymous smoothness, Bennett just hitting the front corner. Great cut as well from Tidswell. Pitch perfect. Great shot to the end zone. 8-5, they take a commanding lead. 2 breaks up. They will be throwing, so they'll be on defense to start the second half. Similar enough position we had to the open final, where that Smog are 8-5 up. They've looked quite sharp, but the main thing is both teams are getting turns. It's just one D-line's able to convert and the other one isn't. So can Reading buck the trend established earlier by Alba and actually convert on some of these defensive opportunities, or are we going to watch Smog run out with another domestic title?
That is the question. Reading have given themselves it all to do in the second half, but they've certainly got the players to do it if they can just get everything together. And while Smog are sitting pretty, they still need to close this one out here. We're going to take a little bit of a breather in the booth so we can get some water on, stretch off, do all that good stuff. We recommend you do the same as well at home, but do not go anywhere, because the second half of the UKU Nationals mixed final continues on the other side.
We are a group of ultimate players, coaches and video enthusiasts. We've worked with the major federations and the greatest events.
We're on a mission to make Ultimate huge. We want our videos and live streams to be free to watch.
We want to make stories that not only reach you,
but also reach people outside the Ultimate community.
Like and subscribe, ULTI.TV, the best in the world.
Become a member and
fund
our
work to cover more events in the future and to bring more stories and live coverage to the eyes of the Ultimate world and beyond.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
The ultimate things in life are free, and we're keeping it that way. Subscribe to keep up with the latest games, tournaments, and community content. Share it with your team and friends, and drop a like to help spread Ultimate to more people. Spread the word, spread the love. ULTI.TV.
Welcome back to the Highfield Sports Complex here in the University of Nottingham. It is UKU Nationals / EUCR West. Seeing some highlights of the first half of the mixed final here. Smog currently up 8-5 on Reading. Thanks for joining us on ULTI.TV's YouTube channel, where all the games from this weekend are available to watch at your leisure, back for free. And if you think the growth of Ultimate is worth supporting, and we would very much appreciate your patronage, ULTI.TV has all the details on patreon.com/ULTI.TV. You can find out how, for as little as a pint of beer a month, you can help ULTI.TV bring free live streaming to the people. Benji Rees and Lorcan Murray with you here for the second half. Reading receiving down 8-5. What do Reading need to do to dig themselves out of this hole?
What they need to do on the offensive end is just get the hold, and we've seen them respond fairly effectively so far. They've only given up 2 breaks in the first half. Of course, the virtuous starting on offense, making it a 3-point difference right now for Smog. The real difference we need to see is on their defensive offense. So for right now, we've already seen this O-line get it done. They just need to keep that trend, not give up any more breaks, and then I think the next point we'll really see if Reading are capable of getting this title or not.
Oh, Wilson there, maybe getting a little bit too cute with it, looking for that offhand backhand through to Lewis, but knocking it down is Andy Patterson, a man who we were told is having a very good tournament this weekend, and coming up trumps again there for Smog. Spears will now try and power the D-line offense to another break, squeezing it to Williams down the sideline. I thought for a second he was going to look big, and now he is shooting deep for Naden. Can she get it? Yes, she can! It's another Smog break, 9-5.
Dream start to the half for Smog as they come out here absolutely firing. Incredibly impressive heads up D. Yeah, okay, maybe you're taking a liberty or two going for that offhand backhand, but the whole idea behind that throw is that you strike at these quick places where people aren't expecting it. Huge reaction from Andrew Patterson, yeah, Andrew Patterson, to be able to dive across, touch that down, and not let them get away with something like that. And then Spears to Williams, Williams to Naden. I mean, it's a well-worn and established connection, and something that has seen them get scores all over the world, and now here in Nottingham for a big-time break, 9-5 to open up the second half. So we're going to have to stall on and talking about what the Reading's D-line can do, and how can they really react to Smog? Initially, Smog were kind of going a bit more matchy, but there you could see starting to try to crowd areas and make Reading think a little bit more about what their options are.
Yeah, Reading have to dust themselves down, pick themselves up and go again.
See Cauldron getting ready. That's the kind of intensity they need to bring.
Yeah, see that Bignell's come over to the O-line now, replacing Sam Wilson. There's the ball, trying to hustle down. This is going to take an edge and land out of bounds on that far sideline. We do see this now where teams, they look to nail those kind of 5% back of the end zone style pulls, because if they can get them right, then all of a sudden they've put the other team in such a perilous position that you're happy to say, okay, when we get those, we know that we can capitalize and get the break, that the ones that don't come off, we're still confident enough that we can play defense from the brick mark.
I think that's very much something you do when you've got the comfort of a 4-point lead. If it's a tight game, or if you're trying to fight your way back into the match, you've just got to make sure that thing stays in bounds. The first 2 passes of every possession are your best opportunity to get Ds.
Hill to Bignell. Well, that's 2 passes now for Reading. Bignall finds Lewis in plenty of space. Roberts is so poached on the far side, and Hogan clears through to free that up. Here's Bignall. Lewis is gone, but they're looking underneath. Again, I think Reading could try and get the deep game back into their offense. It would do them wonders as Hogan celebrates before Lewis makes the catch. He knew it was good, and Reading close it up a little bit, 9-6.
We got a bit of prescient Benji here in the booth. He's calling for that arcing shot. Hogan sees it, opens it up and sends a blade to the far side corner. Really effective look. Lewis is there to collect it, as he is so many times before. So, there you go. Get the hold. Point later than they wanted it, but they got it. Perfect. 9-6. Now here's the really interesting part. They're going to have to go on a march. And how are they going to do it? Who's the personnel they're going to target? I think with the old ABBA rule set right now, we are on 4 women.
I believe we are.
So we'll see who Reading decides to go with.
Yeah, see who they'll take a chance on. I can squeeze in more if you want.
Who could be their super trooper to try and turn this game around?
More, honestly, Glasgow next week, we'll get on a roll with them.
This is where, yeah, we're doing the UK Nationals. We've got to keep it at least semi-professional. Glasgow next week, which we will also be broadcasting for free ULTI.TV. Tune in if you want to join us on the punning and what we'd like to describe as ULTI.TV after dark style commentary. But right now, it is Reading who are looking for a light to follow back into this game.
Turton stops the roll of the Beck's Palmer pull. Centering pass to Thompson. Thompson to Bennett. They try and get Ryle to sag off into that space, but there's a pick downfield that will stop proceedings. Redney did mention that they would try and sag on the Smog handlers, but I feel like we haven't seen it as much as I maybe expected.
I was going to say, they've done it a little bit. They've had a couple of people flash every now and again. We saw Hutchinson trying to do it somewhat, as well as Andy Watt is probably the person I've seen do it the most. He's not out there right now for them, but it's interesting. They're going a bit more blatant right now. Hopefully it'll work for them.
Yeah, giving Ryle that license. As brilliant reception there from Yasmin Gill.
Showing those clamps.
Gill goes back to Collier. Collier, Bennett hints at that backfield, but takes the upline instead. Lees sees traffic and resets to Bennett. Bennett wants to lead Collier into the end zone here and does so expertly. 10-6.
Excellent stuff from Collier. That grab by Gill was very impressive. You see a disc go that low to that high that quickly, you think, all right, that's bouncing off somebody's hand. But showing the depth that Smog have been doing, the work they've been doing developing as they've made it through this mountain range of a season for themselves. I like to see a bit more of that sagging. It was a little bit blatant at times, which is going to open you up as people can see how obviously you're sagging. They can think, okay, there's somebody open somewhere, and then they're going to have the opportunity to get a nice easy break throw off once I can get it to them. Great stuff from Collier to keep the pressure up and move it to 10-6. I think you got to flash those lanes more than you can just sit in them, you know, especially against a team like Smog who are so in tune with each other.
And as we mentioned before the game, Smog feel like one of the things they really tried to work on this season was making sure that they were using the full depth of the roster, not running it through the same 3, 4, 5 players. When people are out there, making sure that they're being utilised to the full extent of their ability, and also kind of cycling people through more regularly, keeping them engaged in the game.
And it's something that's very interesting as well when you look at the club constructions. They also have Smog Rising, quite famously bringing 2 teams to Worlds. They've brought 2 teams to Europe in the past, but they keep them as separate entities. So this Smog side you're seeing here has been this squad all season long.
Yeah, the idea is as you mentioned, gives those teams the chance to build their own culture and identity. Hogan underneath to Leicester. Wilson wants to lead Roberts into space. A couple of goals and a couple of assists for Roberts already. Wilson dumping back to Caudron. Caudron to Lewis. Not seeing a lot going on downfield. Just sits that one out there for Caudron to run onto. Now Roberts. Hogan towards that far side. He wanted something more aggressive downfield. He might find it there. Threads the needle through to Wilson. And then the simple flip to Coward for the goal.
Looking good. Some smooth, succulent play. There were nice, quick strikes and a couple of scintillating throws as well thrown in there. Making their way down the pitch. So, calmness coming back into the Reading O-line. And we know the D-line can get some turns. with the existing personnel that they have been focusing on. But we're getting into the business end of the game here, Benji. I mean, we've got about just under half an hour left in the matchup. 10-8 the score, or
10-7.
10-7, sorry. Getting a little presumptive there by me.
I mean, that is a very narrow channel that he's throwing into there.
Yeah.
And Patterson so nearly gets a hand there, but Wilson comes up, and then when they peel off to try and stop the next throw into the end zone, just opens up that little soft spot for the cheeky Swedish. Nice and easy.
Giving a little shout out to your Swedish play. I had that play done to me in college. We were so mad that we stole it and then did it to a load of other people.
It's so good.
It's a great play.
As soon as people are not paying attention. Whoop. That time, I think Smog were paying attention. Just
no, it's great work by Wilson. I mean, to be able to snag it like that, and then the uprushing movement to follow up by Coward.
Yeah, I was just trying to remember exactly who it was. It's been a long weekend. And to be fair, a long season, but we've been delighted to bring you it all.
It's been a privilege as we watch two truly European powerhouses of Ultimate going up. Maybe even we could stretch it and say world powerhouses. I mean, these squads, like you said at the start of this game, they are very similar, largely the same as the squads that were in Worlds, and to see them match up against talent from all across the globe was very exciting, but also very affirming that some of the best Ultimate is being played here on British shores. The fields of Nottingham hosting us for this wonderful weekend is Smog, coming up against a zone now by Reading. I like that when you mix up the defensive looks. You got to try and make them uncomfortable. You got to try and throw them off their game, something they haven't seen yet, they haven't expected. So we'll see how effective it is.
I know you're such a proud Brit, Lorcan.
I tried to give you an olive branch, and like all of your people, you want all of it for yourself.
Throw it back in your face.
You just hit me with it, so.
Should never hit anyone with an olive branch. Don't know how sturdy the wood is. That's by the by. I like the idea of coming with a zone for Reading, and it does seem to be slowing them down. And Turton bobbled. Did Bex Palmer snatch that away?
Perhaps she got more than a palm on the disc. I'm going to have another look here. There's the inside shot. There's the turn.
I don't feel like Turton ever has control of that, and that's pretty clean for Palmer.
I mean, I would call it Purell, but they're going to have a little bit of a talk about it. The reflexes, in fairness, to catch a disc like that when it's bouncing off somebody else's hands. And I like that cover as well from Klima, where she stepped across to stop the swing around, forces the slightly more difficult inside.
Yeah, of course, what we think doesn't necessarily matter unless, of course, they ask us directly. No, unfortunately not. It's all about the players on the field coming to a resolution they're happy with, and any call is retracted. Disc stays with Palmer. Oh, tosses that high release, and somehow Withers catches. I think there was a question about whether it was up or down, and they've called it up and are ready to go.
That one was much easier to see from our position. Quite the grab, though.
Yeah, Withers didn't play at Worlds because doesn't fly anymore. Not afraid of heights or flying, just conscious of the environmental impact. So
afraid of the world we might be passing on to our children.
Yes, so wasn't out in Worlds, but of course Nottingham a lot closer to home. Knights just outside the end zone. Reading looking for their first break. Fakes that to Scott. Still rising. It's going to be over the head of Palmer and into the waiting clutches of Tom Bennett. I think they could have just reset that a bit earlier.
I think Tidswell was putting on a monstrous force, and it deserves a lot of credit for getting that block. Really active on the end zone line. Very impressive.
So another chance goes begging for Reading. Collier trapped on that sideline. Zips it through. Turton. Of course, made that ridiculous grab to win the EUC mixed final a couple of years ago, and broke her arm in the process.
That's the commitment you got to show. You're trying to fight your way to the championship glory.
It was a game quite unlike any other I've seen. Turton resetting to Bennett now. Collier in the teeth of the front line of that defence. Brown comes chasing up a little bit here. Collier to Turton. Again, just happy to take the reset there to Bennett. Got Grossman maybe for a swing on this near side. doing a very good job of slowing the pace of play down here, this Reading defence. They've made Smog have to try and grind it out a bit. But so far, it feels like the Northerners are answering this test of patience.
They were able to get the turn off them initially, but you find that a lot with zones. Once you've turned the first time, I don't know if it's the shock is worn off or you're just embarrassed that you gave it up in the first place, but teams generally get a lot more secure against them. The wind again seems to have died down a bit. This would have been playing into it earlier in the day, but right now not so much. That's an ambitious throw to get out of some trouble.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of that first possession is just kind of figuring things out. On the sideline, Tidswell toes in. Back to Bennett.
Bennett and Tidswell just regaining all of that distance immediately. Now that's how you dump and swing.
But now they're being forced back a little bit. The offhand to Tidswell, trying to get some fluidity to the offense.
I like that. Great stuff. Knew the sitting and waiting wasn't working. Comes, takes control himself, and then just gets it rolling.
I feel like it's a bit static in the back, though. I want to see them follow these discs, demand it back, really run it through.
Well, then they just need to keep giving it to Tidswell, because that's somebody who's there.
Bennett sides it through, leads with the pop to Grossman for 11-7.
I think you got to give an honorary stat to Tidswell on that point. First of all, I would almost go as far as to say that was like an indirect double happiness. The force down on the one sideline that was a huge factor into leading to the turnover and sparing them from giving up a break, and then recognizing that they were starting to get a little bit stagnant. They were starting to be stifled by the zone. The dump swing wasn't quite working. We can see again here. And this is exactly what you're talking about, throw and go. The go is so crucial.
It feels like he's providing a lot of the dynamism to that offense on that point.
As you can just see here. And then pulling two defenders, go across. Bennett, Kleeman does their best to come across and cover that distance, but that just gives space for Bennett. And while those defenders are trying to find their spots again, a nice easy pop in for the score.
Smog 4 points up, needing 4 more to win. Just under an hour on the clock. Games played to 15 or point cap at 80 minutes, at which point you finish the point, add 1 to the highest score, and that becomes our new score cap. So as long as you have to score that last point to win, game still very much on.
Hope is always there, and there's so little between these two sides. Sometimes you see teams pulling ahead and you're thinking, okay, so they're just going to run out winners of this one. But right now, even at this moment with the 4-point difference, there's very little separating them. It's basically that final 5 meters where Reading have not been able to convert their break opportunities.
A number of times Reading have come close, but just been rejected at every opportunity. Caudron finds a nice little seam there, slices it through to Roberts. Lewis, there's wide open on that far sideline is Caudron. Going to play it closer though. And see that, again, Lewis maybe kind of being more aggressive with following the disc. A couple of plays crashing on that, but there's no one to expose that space that's left on the far side. Again, trying to find a way to get that space to Caudron. Doesn't want to sit that backhand out there. And instead, blades across to Roberts, who overshoots Leicester.
Lim was basically looking like a Sheriff of Nottingham out there, just patrolling and trying to make a nuisance of herself all point long. Roberts was able finally to get the swing around her, take advantage of that space, and again, just the pressure coming in quickly. Really impressive stuff from Natasha Lim. Unfortunate for Reading is now Smog have a chance to effectively put this game away.
Gray begins the possession to Bruin. Bruin into the backfield, back to Gray. Reading just trying to compress Smog's D-line offense here, but that might open it up. A hell of a shot across the field, and again, Nick Williams comes down with it. As cool as you like.
Oliver Gray, one of the really... Oh, and it pops over him. I was just about to pay him a compliment. I'll just put that right back in my pocket.
I mean, you'd think you can still pay him the compliment, but what you saw there, the wind picking up a little bit, and seemingly took a long, hard look at Ollie Gray and was like, you know what, I don't want you to catch this, and just popped it right over him.
So conditions starting to make themselves a bit more present.
Lewis in the red zone here now. Reading really zipping that one into Roberts just outside. Roberts to Hogan for the score, 11-8.
And he attacked that with some venom. I mean, Andrew Patterson wasn't exactly close, but was near enough by to make him a little bit nervous. And again, Reading are keeping it just close enough that they're still in this game. And a 5-point deficit would have been somewhat insurmountable with that close to the end of the match. But they shorten it again. 11-8, 3 points. They can get the turns. They just haven't been able to convert one. Yet to get a break in this final. Gotten plenty close, plenty of times. Still being quite rigid with who they're putting out there on the D-line, though, Benji.
Yeah, it feels like they've got plans. It's just, can they execute them? And as we say, they've got turnovers. The problem is punching them in. You feel like with the players they've got out there, the fact that it's a kind of a bit of a miracle that they haven't done so yet.
Right? I feel like if it's not quite working, I suppose that's probably it, why they haven't switched up the lines. They've come so close so many times. They're thinking, look, it's going to happen. We don't need to maybe move Roberts across, or we don't need to move Lewis across quite yet. We can just stay here right now. And it's just an interesting comparison when they did move Bignell to the O-line just to steady things when there was a danger of the game slipping away. But they trust this D-line, they trust the personnel, and they're out there to try and get the win. Currently on matching women, 4 women to 3 men.
Yeah, and we see thus Palmer pulling. I do like the prescribed puller rule.
Thank you, Liam Grant, for one of the best recent additions to the sport.
Hell of a pull as well from Palmer.
Hell of a player with a disc right now, Thompson, middle of the pitch.
Goes back to Collier. Smog still in their own end zone at the moment. You see again, they're just allowing a bit more space for those resets to prevent things downfield. That is a pick on Turton. Disc has gone deep anyway. Bennett will catch it just in case. But that pick happened a good few seconds ago.
That would explain why it looked like Bennett left his mark in San Francisco. Slightly different musical reference here.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's all right.
Bit of Tony Bennett.
Yeah, I only know about him because he was on Muppets Tonight.
What a show.
What a show. And what a show we have here for you, ladies and gentlemen. And this is only our second final of the day as Bennett gets it under pressure from Bignell.
Yeah, women's final takes place next at 3 o'clock, but more on that story later. Turton faking down the line. Collier looks, he's got the isolation deep. Gill and floats it up there, but undercooks that one, and Hutchison greedily picks it off.
I think that's a testament to the wind picking up and shortening that arc.
And you can see just a little bit of the wrong edge on it from Palmer, takes it away from Wong.
Unfortunate again, Reading get the opportunity, can't quite capitalize on it.
It's that is a microcosm of the game right there for Reading's D-line. Earn the turn and just can't do anything with it. Thompson to Lees. Grossman trying to get Thompson attacking the front cone. No! Oh, the foot block from Wong. But is this a foul?
So this is just my little tidbit on how you can tell sometimes from a distance. Replays. Now, see the way she puts her hands down on her thighs to think about it? That to me is like, I think it was clean. If they put your hand across your hand and you're like,
Well, it's uncontested.
Well, there you go then. Shows what I know. God, I love a good foot block.
Football.
No, ultimate, Benji. This is ultimate.
Grossman getting into a high stall situation. All the edge might take this away from Collier, but he catches it despite the advances of Danny Ryle. Bennett wants to lash it into Turton, not to the end zone just yet. Gill attacking the front cone, no. Turton looking for reset. Oh, Bennett palms it, and Bignell just smacks it to the floor. I think he wanted to take off deep, but there was no one immediately to pick it up, so they will just go for a slow start instead. Wide open on that far sideline is Hagan. Hagan to Palmer, a little bit floaty, but not a problem. Feels like a bit more fluidity to the offense on this possession here for Reading, or maybe not, a bit low, and again Wong can't snatch it.
It's a difficult one, Reading. Struggling to find these connections on the D-line and get the flow moving down the pitch. It just seems to kind of stutter step each time.
But they have created such pressure on Smog's O-line this point, and it makes sense there that Lees calls the timeout.
So Tom Lee's just thinking, I need to clean this game up. I mean, Reading score right now, and they're just going to be right back into this matchup. We're able to put this one in. I think we can put it to bed. 11-8 remains the score.
I think this is a good opportunity for us to take a little bit of a breather. Certainly, it sounds like I need to put my teeth back in. So we'll take a short break here and be back with you on the other side.
Right now, he's going to have to bid. Just a
Football!
Huge layout block. Unbelievable stuff on the front corner of the end zone.
Maybe just that boost of energy they needed. Huge swing pass and a great grab there from Spear.
We believe mixed is the best for the sport, for the world. That's why we're making a global showcase, starting in Europe, made in Amsterdam. ULTI.TV. ULTI.net.
Welcome back to Nottingham for UKU Nationals, EUCR West. We've got mixed final action for you. Smog up 11-8 on Reading. Reading have forced a couple of turnovers this point, but haven't been able to connect on the conversions. And Smog, maybe a little bit rattled, choosing to take a timeout before things really slip away from their O-line.
You don't want to give your opponents any chance to fight their way back into it. Smog are the reigning champions for a reason, and they are looking to defend that title.
It's Benji Reese and Lachlan Murray in the booth.
And we thank you very much for joining us. Just to be clear, that's Smog Rising having a team photo there. Smog aren't so confident that they'll call a timeout, take a team photo, and then come back.
I mean, I'd respect it if they did, to be fair. The initial play is Bennett, and Bennett wants to float this one. Oh, it's a tricky read for Turton, and Palmer just enough to get in the way.
I think that's all down to Palmer with the help defense. That play came off pretty much perfectly. Really well set up, and it just looked like Turton had acres of space and time to get there. And you know with Bennett, that throw is going to come, and it's going to be catchable, but brilliant pressure from Palmer.
Hutchison taking his time, striding to the brick mark. The brick mark? The end zone line. I need to put my eyes in as well. And Hutchison looking for the big bomb to Bignell. Towards the far sideline. Has he got it? Reading have their first break.
What a way to get it. You're having trouble generating flow. Well, then just get the score in one pass. I mean, it seems like a pretty easy solution to that persistent problem.
Just huck it full field. Forehead. Easy.
That's the full solution. That's all they ever need to do. Hutchinson's recognized, I keep trying to throw this to unders. I mean, keep trying to play ultimate, and it's not quite working. So what if I just jack it?
I mean, we talked about their O-line maybe needing to add a bit more deep game. Seems like their D-line could have done with it as well.
So you see the big time pressure that was coming from Palmer, and then no hesitation, just tap it in immediately.
And he gets the edge on this, sending it towards the break slot, so it's a little bit easier for Bignell to track. Bennett doesn't ever have a shot at it. Collier tries to come over and help, but it's too far for him as well. And Bignell, quite understandably, pretty amped about that.
Letting that one roar, and he's going to be staying out there. The D-line looking to keep this one rolling. Air raid machine or the traditional version. The only point is that they keep rolling.
Yeah. 4 female matching players again on the gender ratio for this point.
And then Hutchinson's going to step off. Looks like Ben Wilson has come on to replace him.
Yeah, got Ben Withers on as well.
So the two big Bens coming out here. Hopefully going to help Teakin this over. And of course you have to have Palmer out there. So important to everything that Reading are trying to achieve right now.
Thompson, after catching the ball, goes to Lees. Lees wants the swing to Bennett, but doesn't see it. Thompson faking the big, you could see there. Ben Wilson flashing into the lane, but Thompson recognises that well, goes to Tidswell on the sideline. Oh, Klima! No way!
That was insane! Obviously, we're going to wait to hear them discuss it, but
yeah,
Klima, with the bid, I was like, that's an impressive bid. And then to see her retain possession.
I mean, I thought when this throw got up that this would be Thompson's disc for sure. I mean, it might still be Thompson's disc.
It's so hard. Thompson's body's kind of right in the line of our camera, so it's difficult for us to see. You can see the Reading players freaking out. That's a great catch.
Yeah, also on the sideline there, Neil McCulloch, who was playing with Reading at Worlds, but come over to play, he's playing Clapham for the European Series, but cheering on his former teammates. I mean, I think I can look at this 100 times and not tell you whether it was clean, or not.
It's so tough with those ones.
And sometimes it's so close. Contesting it, sending it back, actually a good result.
It's a tough, because like if you both caught it at the same time, that's going to go to the offense. And if you both caught it within like milliseconds of each other, how could anybody possibly know? So it's a tough one.
But if you want to pay for us to get super slow-mo high vision cameras on every sideline, patreon.com/ULTI.TV.
Every little helps.
Or every lot.
I mean, that would also help.
So disc back in Tidswell's clutches. That's a much easier up line to Lees. Lees, he wants big. He's got Turson isolated deep. Has she beat Caldwell? Yes, she has. 12-9.
Tough one for Caldwell to try and catch up to. So there, Smog's offensive strategy to throw it to people not marked by Klima seemed to really pay off for them. But at the same time, it was good recycling, a nice shot, and that's just what they've been trying to set up all game long. And again, we saw a little bit of sagging into the open channel initially, but like Reading kind of going away from that.
And that's more,
that's
more of what we saw be so successful for Smog at the start of this game. Set up those big isolation, especially their women downfield, and bang it.
Turton, Tess, Gill, they've got absolutely stellar weapons in the downfield.
Yeah, I think the best set of female deep receivers in the country.
I mean, if you want to put that to the test, viewers at home, and form your own opinion about it, we still have the women's final coming up after this one. It's tough.
Yes, that's true.
It's tough to look past some of that Smog talent. Like, they do have some truly very talented athletes.
But then, you know, they're not just. It's not just. Well, we'll force them deep. We'll force them under easy, because they're all capable with the disc. They can all hurt you in multiple ways, and that's really what you want as a player, to be unpredictable. So that, yes, obviously, if they give you something, you can take it. But also, you're not always getting the same matchups. It's giving teams problems. As that one, Hogan just got that too high, and Coward is never going to be able to reel that one in.
I think that's an unfortunate victim of the elements. Conor Hogan, somewhat surprised probably to see Coward that open. And he just shoots over the top. So now he's got to get down there and play some intense D, try and earn this back for his side.
Gray picks up. Reading, having earned a break back, might be surrendering it immediately here or not. Doesn't connect with Naden.
So, short field turnover, and the classic and always on purpose strategy of Huck and D once again working perfectly.
Right, never fails. If you actually get the D, never fails. Lewis pops that one out there. A lot of float for Hogan. Reels it in comfortably. I think there's a foul here. It's Roberts in discussion with Neve at the front of that end zone stack.
You see Reading, they like to target that front of stack, break side straight away, and hopefully hit to the back corner.
You can just see in the very edge of your picture there, Rachel Naden is going to sit in that space to try and prevent that throw going into that inside channel.
I think the big part of that was Coward, as they got forced out to the sideline, opted to go for a big arcing banana cut back. And that's some smart heads of defense. So that's going to mean she's unmarked at the back of the stack. So that's a poach that they're not taking advantage of right now.
Hogan, really jams that one in the jam hole to Lewis.
Forced it especially when you've seen Hogan open up pitches, you know he can take that step back and hit the far corner with a blade. I am rather surprised Coward didn't go for that cut. I mean, it's not the best. If you recognize you're being poached on the open side under of the end zone, the last thing in the world you want to do is just stand at the back of the end zone. You have to make yourself relevant, even just by yelling poach. It can be quite effective, because then you start to mess with the player who is taking those liberties. So seeing a swing here from Reading would be really good. I think you can even see them start to realize it themselves.
I think the tricky thing is as well that because there's a couple of players close by, you can't exactly just, we'll just put this one out into space, because there's someone there potentially to peel across and pick it off.
I feel like they have that throw. And even then, the move or just yelling poach causes the defender to react.
Yeah,
I think that's the big thing, is you have to cause that defender to react. You can't
stay active.
You can't let them take liberties.
So Lewis, again, still not in the end zone yet. Still trying to get that isolation set up to Roberts. The high release will get it done. Making it 12-10. Reading still very much in this game. That's now 3 goals and 3 assists for Roberts.
Roberts is having an incredibly impressive game in this final, the biggest stage. The biggest players are going to step up to make the biggest plays. We got about 2.5 minutes left until the hooter goes as well. So you got to imagine this game's going to be wrapping up pretty well. The point cap's going to be established pretty soon. Wrapping up is getting too far ahead of ourselves. There's plenty of action still to come. We know Reading can get the 1 break. Certainly believe they can get another one. They're going to rely, we assume anyway, on the established personnel they've been turning to all game long for these moments. As we have another look, number 27 just appearing all over our stat sheet so far in this game.
Although, see that she's not wearing her own shorts.
Let's be honest here. The stringent woof-duff broadcast rules for kit is not something we've really been applying to teams so far. You've seen a couple of generations of Reading jerseys out there on the pitch, a couple of different iterations of Smog. We're not getting too harsh about it right now.
No, I think we should be more draconian.
So things getting tight here at the end of the season. Just under 2 minutes left to play. Big arcing pull out of Dom Knight. And down come Reading. So Thompson, middle of the pitch, surveying. Tidswell is completely unmarked. It explains it. Yeah, there's going to be a bit of a pick gun. You can see, I think they're trying to... They like to try and set up this little bit of a split stack, or trying to generate that space through some cutting with the purpose of clearing space that they can then attack. So there you see just a little bit of a pepper mill.
And Bennett, the low release, puts the air underneath it. Can Tidswell chase it down? No, and neither can Gill.
That's really rough when you see someone almost go for the layout and instead just go knees first into the ground. It always just makes me wince ever so slightly.
I could feel it because you grabbed my arm.
It sounds counterintuitive, but that would be less painful and less dangerous if you took it chest first rather than like knees first.
So Bignall, can he power Reading to another break? He's caught their only goal, their only break so far, and this time it looks like he wants to throw this assist, but that one you could see it hold up in the wind. Klima was the target, but in the end it was Thompson who brought it down.
Great recovery by Thompson. I have no idea how Klima got that free in the first place, but maybe a little bit of a baiting by Thompson, recognizing where the wind is. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, on the far sideline, Hunt. Lee squirrels his way through, and Hunt saw a window where I did not. But thankfully Lee saw it as well. Thompson down to Tidswell. Gets the disc back a little bit behind her, but not a problem. There's the hooter, finish the point, add 1. That'll be our score cap. Thompson down the line to Lees. 13-10, game to 14.
Thompson and Lees multiple times in that point are just finding millimeters and turning them into acres. That first off, that window looked like a wall for the break that I was Hunt that got off to Lees initially, and then right there in front of the end zone, Lees is doing his juking, jiving. He's trying to get the defender to commit, and he starts to get peeled off. Someone's trying to poach him from the deep side as well. Still, somehow Thompson finds that little gap in between. So we can see here. So they all clear through. And there's Thompson faking out our camera people as well. That just goes to show how deadly she can be. All right, Lees was slightly out of frame there, but was putting in moves on Dom Knight, and honestly I didn't think they were working, but then great throw in space that basically only he could get it to in time to collect it, and that's a huge score to make it 13-10. You understand why Bignall went for that big huck to try and turn things around, but I think it was baited. I think it was a trap. They did it on purpose.
Well,
going the other direction, that's a score.
Yeah, Bignall took it hook, line and sinker. So Reading, here's the task in front of them. They need to put in this offense here, and then 3 breaks on the trot to win. And bear in mind that no side has ever put more than 2 points in a row on the board.
Well, when you're climbing to the mountain top, you gotta leave it all out there.
Here's Hogan, finds Leicester in miles of space. No one even really in the same postcode. At the freedom of the East Midlands. Lewis on this near sideline. Wilson gives it back to Lewis. Can he find it through to Coward? No. Caudron might be the option instead, but he goes to Roberts. She's going to find Caudron past the bidding defender, taking advantage of players out of position. Caudron goes back to Hogan. Roberts basically screaming for it on the far sideline. I think just a bit passive there from Reading, and it allowed Smog to get that defense into position. Lewis low, a brilliant catch there from Rosie Coward.
Fantastic stuff. And I don't mind you just slowing down a little bit as your opponents transition from zone into match defense, because I do think, and I've said this plenty of times before, I think the most dangerous time is during that transitionary period, because there's so much chaos going along. You're going to recognize an opportunity for a mistake, or you're going to probably get yourself into some trouble. Interesting choice to go for a zone there by Smog, though.
Yeah, I think, again, don't let Reading get into any sort of rhythm is the plan. Make them slow, make them grind it out, make them feel the pressure of the scoreboard. You see here, Lewis just kind of quickly, no pivot, low catch, and Coward with a little roly-poly afterwards, back to the feet. Swag indeed.
Really great. Shows you just how low Coward had to get to secure that disc. And all of her momentum was carrying her then out of bounds after the fact. But really great grab and keeping it close enough to make it competitive. It's 13-11, but the most points any team has scored in a row so far has been 2, which really goes to show just how closely matched these teams are. So we see. So it's going to be 4 women matching for what could be potentially the last point of the mixed championships.
Yeah, Reading need to break, or it's Smog's crown once more. Leads to Thompson for the first. Well, is this the possession? Thompson, there's a lot of space, but this one is popped up. Brilliant high grab from Turton. Climbs Jacob's ladder and descends, and wants to end it all in style. Looking for Collier. Smog are champions once more.
Absolutely stellar play. And I mean, if you're going to take the crown, you might as well do it with a little bit of swagger. What a catch, what a shot. Well collected and well deserved by the Northerners, defending their title and taking it home once more.
Yeah, disappointing World Championships maybe, but they firmly put that behind them here with a strong powerhouse performance against Reading. Had a good tournament, but just came up against what looked like a juggernaut in this game. Smog, they were not perfect. They did turn the disc over, but they played such gritty defense to get it back time and time again.
I think that once again speaks to the incredible athleticism that they boast across their lines throughout their ranks. They're always going to be competitive because they're always going to be close to you, which is dangerous, and it can be really frustrating. You started to see towards the end Reading trying to take a few shortcuts by going for the big shots. Look at that grab. And just getting up.
Again, conservation of greatness, not a thing if you're Rachel Turton. Just climb the ladder, dust yourself down, immediately bang it just to win nationals. Cool as you like. Will Collier in the end zone, arms outstretched in celebration. And why the hell not?
When you've got that much greatness, it's selfish to conserve it. You got to share it with the world. And a big congratulations to Smog for what they have achieved. Obviously, you know they're going to be cheered on by Smog Rising as well. And let's just take a moment to have a big shout out, because be a few concerns about Ultimate and how far it's growing. You can see 2 absolute clubs here in the mixed division 100%. Of the UK. I mean, Smog and Reading define that. Reading with over 100 people in the club in total, and came close enough to being able to compete in all 3 divisions again. On top of that, Smog with Smog Rising, 1 club with 2 squads this season. And it'll be very interesting to see how both these outfits do and represent UK and indeed EUCR West Division when they go over to Europe. Like you said, a little bit of a disappointing turnout in Worlds for Smog, along with Reading achieving a top 8 finish for the 2nd time in their club's history. So big moments for them, coming very close to getting into the semi-final as well. Despite that, Smog didn't let that disappointment hold them back. We were talking to Greer before the game. He said they were sad for about an hour, and then they just got back to business.
They do say something about the best athletes having short memories. You need to try and forget about. Obviously, you can learn lessons, but don't dwell on the mistakes. Don't dwell on the defeats. Park it, move it on, and get back out there.
And what I would like to just, as a little addendum to that, watch out for Smog in Corole. I mean,
100%.
you've got to watch out for them. There are some like quality mixed teams from around Europe, but Smog deserve to be mentioned right up there with them, and it'll be very interesting to see how they get on. Wouldn't be surprised to see both these teams competing in quarterfinals at the European level.
Yeah, I was going to say, look, I think as well, look out for Reading as well, because they've done it on They've done it on the European stage. They've won a European crown in their past, and they, wouldn't necessarily put it beyond them to get it all clicking at Euros and do so again. So certainly, two strong teams to watch. We do still have one more game to come for you today. That will be the women's final that takes place in just under 20 minutes time. That is a 3 o'clock start. But in the meantime, we are just about to get a post-game interview with two of the victorious captains for Smog, and I imagine they must be feeling pretty happy about themselves at the moment. Hannah Pendlebury is down on pitch side, and it looks like she's been able to grab Helen Thompson and Alex Lees. Hannah, over to you.
Well, first off, congratulations, guys. What a final performance that was, and the end point. Gorgeous to watch. So, did you feel like coming into this game that you were at all underdogs?
I think so. On paper, we definitely were. I mean, we played Reading last year and we lost to them in the National League, and then we lost to them early this season as well. And obviously, we didn't do as well at Worlds as they did. But I also think we've always believed that we could do it if we came out and actually played on form. So on paper, yes, but we always believed that we had it in us, which is great.
Excellent. And in terms of obviously the World campaign, I think you wanted to have maybe short memories in terms of that. But what did you do differently out here at Nationals versus in Cincinnati?
Fundamentally, I think having that week of playing all of those competitive teams, because we don't train like as a whole team week in, week out, it means that it kind of like we get better at the end of the season compared to in the middle. And I think that one knockout game we had that put us right down to the bottom was just in the windy, wet conditions against a team that we were just the polar opposites to. So I think that's probably why.
All right, and a question for both of you. Obviously, national title. What's next?
Well, we definitely want to take on Europe at Euros, see how it goes. Other than that, I don't really know. We're just having fun for the rest of the season. That was the goal. Like, that was the three-peat. So we were pushing really hard for nationals.
It's just to grow the club and just to keep being as competitive as possible and take that out onto as many different tournaments and competitions as we can.
All right, well, we'll look to see what happens next for you guys. Congratulations again, and enjoy the party.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Hannah. Thanks, Helen. And thanks, Alex, as well. Go and celebrate your victory. Mixed final now in the books. One game still to come. That in 15 minutes' time. It is the women's final, and that will be between Dublin's Gravity and LMU London Masters Ultimate. A really intriguing contest, I think. Two teams who haven't met yet this weekend, both topped their initial pools and came through their semi-finals just now. So, I think that's going to be a hell of a contest. I'm looking forward to watching it.
Me too. I mean, there'll be elements of the Gravity side that are well enough acquainted with some of the LMU players, Sinead O'Shiel Fleming, certainly, and Gilheany, and plenty others who will have that experience from playing just against the LMU players before they arrived at LMU. Watching them in Wamuk, very impressed with how LMU got on. They showed their experience, but they still showed they have that hunger and that tenacity to find themselves in this kind of a situation, playing in the UK National Championships, an opportunity to go to Europe as well. So plenty of action still to come in our final game. And what time will that be on?
That is at 3 o'clock local time, so 15 minutes. And you can, of course, watch that game for free on ULTI.TV's YouTube channel, where you can watch all of the games this weekend for free live for the next game and on demand at your leisure, as well as the whole archive of footage for what has been a bumper season so far. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching the mixed final here at UKU Nationals EUCR West. Your final score is Smog 14, Reading 11. For Lorcan Murray and the rest of our ULTI.TV crew, I am Benji Rees saying we will see you on the other side.
ULTI.TV.